Hey everybody, this is PJ Riley from Lancaster Archery. Kind of a different video today. We are in our podcast studio and I am here with Levi Perigo, Matt Gross from QuivAR. And guys, the reason we brought you in here for podcast style stuff is you have some really cool stuff that I know nothing about. So QuivAR, before we start getting to know you guys, tell us, what is QuivAR from 50,000 feet?
Sure. So we developed QuivAR to be an archery shot analysis app, and QuivAR works to interact with both targets and eventually arrows to help archers identify shot analytics and help you become a better archer.
The AR at the end, obviously, that's the different part of QuivAR. I'm guessing that stands for augmented reality.
Yeah, part of our technology is using augmented reality as well as LiDAR, which has an AR in it. And we also use a artificial intelligence software engine as well.
Gotcha. So what we're going to do is we're going to be working with targets here that you guys are going to kind of bring to life so we can see what we're hitting in these animals. And we'll get into that in a second, but tell us about yourselves. Levi, who are you? Where are you from? How do you know about this stuff?
So my name is Levi Perigo, and I'm currently a professor at the University of Colorado, and I'm director of the Network Engineering Master's Program. And I've been there for maybe, I think, going on 10 years now. And I worked in industry for, 10 years before that. And, I kind of at the end of the day, I was thinking to myself, what am I doing? Like, people can get to the internet faster, but what am I really doing with my life? And I kind of had that cliche of I want to make a difference. And so I moved to academia, and yeah, I've been there for 10 years. And, it's really nice now being 10 years in. Some of my grads now are, major directors at major companies. And so they're into management, and, it's just good to actually feel like you're doing something worthwhile.
Yeah.
And so I've been in academia for, like I said, I think 10 years. I was in industry before that. And
computers, that's your thing.
Yep. So computer science department, and then I focus on network engineering. And so as far as, what we do with QuivAR with the AR and the artificial intelligence, that's what I do kind of in my day job.
Yeah.
And so then on top of that, I'm an adult onset hunter. So I think I started maybe, 12 years ago or so. And just fell in love with archery with like most people do. And part of what we're doing with QuivAR is, the more people we can get shooting their bows, the better.
Yeah.
And, we've talked to a lot of people that said, man, I started doing archery and it changed my life. And it's that same thing. I try and shoot my bow almost every single day, just that pursuit of perfection, just going out there, trying to get better. And, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but, that's part of why we started QuivAR was, we're hunters. What can make us better hunters?
Yeah.
And it's, being able to have more ethical shots, being able to track your shots. This data, like every other industry has, in running and cycling and golf, right? Archery doesn't have that. And so that's kind of why we started it. But yeah, so my main thing, my passion, I have many passions, but archery is probably at the top of that, and archery hunting. And, Matt and I have hunted many species in Colorado together. Our biggest thing is elk hunting in Colorado for
you guys are
elk
lucky
season.
Living in Colorado. You got like 50 different big game animals.
We try and hit them all.
Try to take advantage of it.
We try and hit them all for sure. And that's my passion, and that's my background.
Matt, how about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Matt Gross, and I currently help run a business called Flak Tech, and we're in the high-tech space of materials processing. And previous to Flak Tech, I was at an aerospace firm, and I did a lot of development there and worked on all kinds of sensoring. One of the sensors I worked on when I was there was a LiDAR-based sensor, and that sort of was part of the stimulus of QuivAR early on, is understanding what we can detect, what we can't detect, and how we can use that scattered light and structured light to detect arrows.
Right.
So, yeah, I also am a hunter. Like Levi said, we hunt together. I've been able to harvest elk, deer, turkey, bear, all by bow in Colorado. So been super fortunate, and didn't hunt when I was a youth. And when I got out to Colorado, actually started out with a rifle hunt and realized, wow, hunting can be different than when I grew up and what I felt and did back then, and got into archery as my next level. Then figured out that maybe there was some space to help improve the archery industry and get people rallied around a new product. So that's QuivAR.
So yeah, so one of the things with 3D targets, I mean, they're great for practicing on, but we have these scoring rings, so everybody wants to hit that. Well, that's not, and they say that's the vitals, but the animal moves, the vitals move, but they don't move on the target. Yeah. And that's kind of what when we were at ATA and you guys were showing us, you could see that, okay, when things move, now here's where you should be shooting to actually hit the heart, lungs, whatever.
Ironically, historically, we had not shot a lot of 3D competitions. We'd shot a ton of 3D together, but never like competitively at, indoor or with a formal sanctioned event. And one winter night, we went in and did an indoor shoot and had a blast. We loved it. Yeah. But I was also left with, I didn't realize how much time was spent scoring and analyzing, not arguing, but going back and forth. Is this arrow better? Is that arrow better? And that sort of began the train of like, man, there's got to be a better way to quickly score and analyze these shots. Yeah. But yeah, we spend a lot of time on the range. Instead of shooting at rings, we say like, hey, let's go for a frontal heart shot here. And then you walk up and you're left with the, no, my arrow is better. No, my arrow is better. And there's no way to analyze it. And that's where QuivAR can come in and help that out.
Yeah. I mean, we started in our backyard kind of 3D range. We have a really nice 3D range in Boulder. And, Matt and I started shooting together and we wouldn't go for the rings. We're going for the most ethical kill shot because there'll be some really steep uphill or steep downhill. And it just didn't make sense to aim for the rings. And so as we started doing that, then we went to that indoor tournament and we were like, man, it takes forever to score. And then that's when we started thinking, man, there's a better way to do this.
Yeah. And Levi was changing his score, so I had to,
We need an impartial judge.
We need a judge.
And so when a computer engineer and a mechanical engineer are at a competition together, something like QuivAR comes out of that.
Yeah, we somehow together, we do. We make a great team. It's been fun. We're obviously friends first and business partners second, but we both have skills that have added together to make QuivAR a really awesome team as far as his software background, my detectors background, and then just our passion and vision for the archery industry. Yeah. We're super excited to be working together.
So June 1st, you guys are launching. Describe what's going to hit the marketplace June 1st.
So we've partnered with a target manufacturer. We've partnered with Delta McKenzie and BIGshot targets to produce a QuivAR-enabled 3D target, and we're going to launch with 6 different products. So there's going to be 4 different deer. There's going to be a pro size elk and a pro size grizzly. And what we're doing in this first phase is we're enabling those targets to have the 3D anatomically correct anatomy inside of them. So, I mean, we're really excited about this, of course, but this is only 5% of what the QuivAR platform is going to do. Yep. But, this gets us into the industry, and it's going to change the way targets are forever. I mean, since 3D targets were invented, I think this is the next biggest thing for them. Yeah. And so now you can shoot these targets and you'll be able to see the anatomy, the heart, the lungs, the liver, the skeletal system, and they're all anatomically correct. So I can see, all right, the scapula on the elk is here versus a deer is here. And so all these targets are going to be launched. They're going to be QuivAR enabled. It's going to come out with our free QuivAR app. And so with that, on any of these targets, you'll be able to go up and we can explain a little bit about how the technology works.
That's what I was going to say. App-based. Okay, so I walk in the store. I have nothing QuivAR yet, but I'm coming in. Walk me through what happens.
Sure. So you're going to want to go to the App Store, and we'll be launching on both the Android system, so Google Play, as well as Apple. So go to the Apple Store and just download QuivAR app, QuivAR. Yep. And it's a free download, like Levi mentioned. And we've got a few options when folks launch the app. So one of the first experiences is we've got what's described as an in-store augmented reality box experience.
Yeah. Talk about that.
And so the packaging that we made, and you guys can show what the packaging looks like. You can actually take your phone and get up and scan the packaging. And when you scan the packaging, it's going to present you with a floating 3D augmented anatomy of a white-tailed deer. And that'll
thing
allow you
is
to
cool.
Yeah, it'll allow you to go inside of it and see where the heart is, and you can take the skeletal system out or take the digestive tract out, whatever you want, and just sort of play with it. And it's more meant to be like an engaging, fun, like, oh, I can understand what this product will do.
Right.
So that's just sort of a fun customer interaction thing. You can do that in the store. You can save your box. I would save my box and,
Absolutely.
have it in my kitchen. My wife would like that. But then once you have the target, so on the target, you'll take the target home. To be clear, these are the same targets that have existed for years, meaning it's the Pro Grizzly, the Pro Elk, or the Big Daddy Buck, whatever that is. It's the same target. However, they've changed their manufacturing process to be able to work with our chips that I've got here. And when you pull your target out of the box, this chip will be built into a non-shooting area of the deer, elk, or bear. What this chip allows you to do is it allows the app to authenticate, and then it tells the app, hey, you've just scanned the Big Daddy Buck. Yeah. And then it's going to throw that anatomy up, and that's when your experience will be able to start to see, how's my shot? Where's this located? Where are these bones? And real quick, I want to, Levi and we've all been talking about anatomically correct. Yes, our anatomy is anatomically correct, but believe it or not, all these foam targets that we're working with maybe aren't anatomically correct. Yeah. I mean, they're all different shapes and sizes, and certainly they're beautiful and they've been modeled well, but there's definitely a factor here of is the deer correct or is the inside correct? Our whole concept is let's just get one level deeper here. When we're shooting these as hunters, we're looking for an ethical kill shot. And right now we walk up and we go, is this an ethical kill shot or is it not? And this is just one step closer to you actually being able to discern that.
Yeah.
And something else to add on that is this is what we're releasing now. But when we do our software upgrades in the future, once you have that target, all of those enhanced features are going to be enabled. Right. So what you get right now is you buy this target, you can see the anatomy on there. But when we come out with arrow detection, arrow scanning, a new hunter scoring system, all that's just an app upgrade. Right. So you don't have to get a new target. You don't have to change anything. It's all there ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes, we can push all kinds of exciting features whenever. It's sort of future proof, if you like to think of it that way.
Right. So in your minds, you guys, engineers, you're sitting at home. I'm looking at it on the screen back there behind you with the skeleton and the vitals and all that. So your main focus was just like, we need to figure out how to make this even better to practice with.
Yeah, I'd say the initial focus, the aha moment for me was with a 3D target and an arrow. I saw the arrow sticking out of the 3D target, and I'm about to pull it out of the target, and I think this data, where this arrow is living in space, is the data that's going to determine the trajectory through that animal. So if I can get that data and project that through this animal and then project the anatomy inside the animal, I can all of a sudden start to understand what I've hit inside. And that's way more important versus shooting something on the outside. It's what hits on the inside. So that was the initial aha.
Yeah.
But then from there, where we've taken this is obviously we want to apply it to target archery, and there's applications in target archery to discerning rings and then discerning placement of arrows. But it did, to your question, go back to wanting to better understand shot placement and analysis on a 3D target or animal.
If I'm shooting at this target and it is quartering away, right now I'm saying I shoot it. I know I need to shoot it farther towards the back, but looking at the target, I don't know if I'm actually hitting it in the right place.
And we've all been in that friendly competition where, you do one of those fun quartering away shots or a frontal shot, and then you walk up to the target and you go, my arrow was better because of this, or your arrow was better because this, and this. And that's fun to talk about and try to describe. But what QuivAR does, it allows you to actually discern what was maybe the better shot and why. So it's an education piece that you can go up and be teaching yourself some muscle memory, anatomy placement memory. Like we've all been hunting for years now. You might say, I don't need to see the anatomy of a whitetail, but hey, if you flash that up every once in a while, it's going to help fine tune those motor skills and that muscle memory of, this is where I do need to shoot it. Cause I'm not aiming at those rings. I'm aiming further back or up or down if I'm in a tree stand, et cetera.
Yeah. It's amazing to me through the years, especially those quartering shots, actually how far back you should shoot. You don't really realize it until you shoot a deer there and you're like, you know, sometimes you shoot one, you're like, man, that's pretty far back. And then you cut open, you're like, man, that was actually a perfect shot.
Sure.
And speaking of that cutting open, like we've worked with veterinarians, wildlife biologists, game wardens to kind of make sure we got all this placement exactly right. And, you know, the kind of discouraging thing to us was they had some differing opinions. And these are experts in the field, you know, and they had some differing opinions of, well, we think this should be an inch back or an inch higher. And so we have it, you know, we have all the best people in the world helping us with this anatomy placement, and just there's not a lot of data out there for big game animals.
Well, and I think we need to discuss that too, that for you, this is the beginning. As you mentioned, you have a lot of ideas for where to go from here. But in the industry, this is a first. There's nothing like this.
Yeah, we're really excited as far as like how big and many different ideas that QuivAR can have. For this to be our launch into the industry and the first product to be with a 3D target in this space, it is exciting. Mainly because it is a first. Everyone since the beginning of foam targets has been used to shooting a foam target and your experience ends there. And now we can just simply take that next step and engage with the target a little bit more. You know, I shoot in the yard with my son, and he's obviously been around for watching me develop this and shoot and go up and scan. And now when he shoots the target, the first thing he says is, "Daddy, let's scan it." It's so cool to see. And what I like about that is he's not saying like, "Daddy, I want to sit down and play more video games." He's saying, "I want to be in the yard, shooting my bow at this target.
And then, playing video games."
And then it seems natural to him to then want to interact beyond just this silly foam target. He wants to see what's next. So it's been cool to see how quickly it's taken, especially for that generation, I'll say.
I was going to say, I would imagine that generation, this would be something that they would really latch onto versus old guys like me. But even I see how cool it is. But I would imagine in particular, younger people, that's more of what they're used to.
Absolutely. But our experience at ATA, which is when we sort of unveiled this originally, we would had all generations, and we were on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
And I was so surprised of how many folks came up, grabbed that phone, interacted with it, young or old, and had the exact same experience of like, wow.
Yeah, right.
I didn't think I could, one, do this, and I didn't think, two, that the anatomy was over there, or I actually had to shoot over here to miss that bone, something like that. So I've been impressed with the response from the different generations experimenting with the technology for sure.
And when we launched back in ATA, you know, this is 5 months ago from now, you know, we had the kind of AR experience inside the anatomy. We had the arrow scanning. We had 2D ring targets, automatic scoring, and arrow detection. We're still working on all of that stuff, of course, right? But this is just our first launch. But what was really nice for us is we have been working so hard on this, and we're new to the archery industry, right? We have jobs in completely different areas, and archery is just our passion. But when we came to ATA and just seeing the kind of enthusiasm that everyone had and the kind of support for what we were building kind of made us feel authenticated of, wow, people kind of get what we were doing.
That put the wind in our sails, because we were joking. We drove from Denver to St. Louis, and the drive we're going like, we're going to set this thing up.
What's
and
this going to be like?
People are like, who are you? And what's this about? And honestly, it brings us
talk about that. I think that's interesting. What's that like? You're coming in ATA.
I mean,
I've been going there, I don't know how many years. It's the same people every year.
It was.
You guys are coming in?
Yeah, it was definitely a big experience for us to walk into. Maybe we were a little naive, and that was healthy for us, but we definitely did have the weight on our shoulders of like, hey, we want to have a good showing, and we actually do think this can elevate the archery industry. So I think the weight was more towards making sure we do our best part in helping people see the QuivAR experience. And if they do, what will they think? And that put the wind in the sails. Lancaster Archery, you guys were a big proponent of vocalizing, hey, we can see this being useful here, here, and here.
Yeah.
How can we help? Can we make some introductions? All that, which full circled us sitting around the table now. The hospitality that the archery industry showed us, Lancaster Archery especially, was very welcoming.
And I think it was cool. It was very different for us, both Matt and I, in our fields. We go to a lot of conferences and trade shows, and it's just completely different. I remember being at ATA. This was our first ATA.
Yeah.
I remember being at ATA and being like, man, these are our people. Like, I feel at home here. Everyone, is so friendly, so kind and welcoming. Whereas, what we do in our day jobs is all cutthroat, and people want to one up everyone. And the archery community has just been the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
I remember getting set up, and one of the first folks that walked by the booth, it happens to be a friend now. We've been keeping in communication. He came up and he was with his kids. They were teenagers. They actually shot at Lancaster Classic then a few weeks later, but he grabbed her phone and was doing it. And he was like, this is amazing. And we're like, Levi and I looked at each other like, okay. And he's like, did you guys develop this? And like, that was sort of the start of the show for us. And that helped us, I think, take a bit of the weight down and just start to enjoy the experience. From then on, it was fun.
Yeah. I think people could see that, this was developed by archers for archers, right? It wasn't some big tech company just trying to make $1. Right. It was people that are actually passionate about the sport. And it was just really refreshing for us to be like, everything we've been working so hard on, to go to ATA and be like, man, these people get it, and that was just so refreshing for us to see, and kind of making these partnerships and kind of lifelong friends after just a few days at one conference or one trade show was just life-changing for us.
Yeah. We had some cool interactions too, where we had an arrow stuck in like the top of the deer at an angle. And we'd say like, hey, you think that was a good shot? And people be like, nah, it's too far back, or it's too angled this way. And then we throw up the eye. I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't realize you could do this. So that was cool to see some interaction on that level as well.
Well, I mean, from a practical standpoint, this type of stuff exists in the other sports, golf, baseball, bowling. It just hasn't in archery. And so to see it coming out, you guys bring this out. There have been some similar things in the past. There's techno hunt, video hunting, not quite the same. But to be able to shoot 3D targets versus something flat on a screen, just, as we said, takes it to a different level. Yeah,
and that was one of the core findings for us, is we want this to be your bow, your arrow, your targets. We didn't want to have to, manipulate this and make you shoot a different bow. Yeah. Didn't have to be inside in your basement. You could be outside. And back to that aha moment, that's the next phase of that was going like, hey, what has been done here, and doing, literature study, patent study, what's around, and then being able to protect, sort of have a moat around this technology to protect it so that we can steward it and get it to the best state possible. Right. That was a big moment for us to move the business forward.
And so that big data analysis is, obviously I do that at work, but that's what drives us as athletes to get better, right? So like you said, the other sports have this, like in, there's a popular one called Strava that for running and cycling, and, you're tracking your miles, your heart rate, your elevation gain. But I mean, in archery, we don't have any of that, right? So not in this first release, but, coming, we have this working kind of parallelly in the background. Once we can detect arrows, well, now you can see how many arrows I shot in a year, what my average group size is. If I change my rest, do my groups get bigger? Once we have this arrow detection, all of this data comes, and then ultimately it makes you a better archer. Then you can add the social and community piece of, here's the leaderboard, here's who's shooting Matthews bows, here's who's shooting Hoyt bows, here's the, top most arrow shot, like Casey Kaufel will be on there and say, like, I shot 60,000 arrows last year. We'll be able to see that, right? But right now, there's just none of those data capturing elements for archery.
Yeah, and the piece that's missing is easily and neutrally capturing your arrow. Because right now you can look at a screen and you can put a dot and say, yep, that's where my arrow landed. But one, did it, and did you actually release it? And there's a lot of question around how accurate that could be. Yeah. Versus if you've got a neutral judge, aka your phone, that's scanning that and put it in there, all of a sudden you can connect on a community level. And the community part of QuivAR, we hope, is elevates the industry, right? Like if I can be on, and Levi just mentioned Casey, if I can be on and be inspired, like, oh my gosh, Casey was out shooting 50 times last week and I didn't even get out to shoot. That's inspiring from an athletic and competitive standpoint. It'll get you out engaging, and hopefully more people getting into archery.
You don't want to shoot the number of arrows that she shoots.
I don't.
It's insane. But I'm just amazed that I'm sitting here looking at this small plastic card.
Sure.
That it just, you go up there, scan that, or touch your phone to that, and just all of a sudden that target comes to life.
Yeah. So this
Yeah, so this
card's called an NFC card. and we have these custom programmed and manufactured for us. And just like you would use Apple Pay or tap your card somewhere to pay and interact, we've done the same thing and enabled this to interact with our app. And the goal of starting with an NFC chip was the most simple way for a customer or user to come up and interact with our target without having to do a bunch of things on the app and select a bunch of settings. All the settings are pre-programmed in here. So you just walk up, tap that, it tells the app everything it needs to know, and then boom, the anatomy is going to pop up. So this was sort of another aha moment for us to get to market quickly and get this manufactured.
Well, I could also imagine, I mean, you're kind of going to have to educate an entire community who has none of this. In archery, some archers play golf, so they're used to the simulated golf programs that are out there. But for archery, you're kind of starting at the ground up, which is, if you came out with everything at once,
exactly,
people would be like, I can't, that's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that's why we launched with just this kind of just put the anatomy inside these 3D targets. That alone is going to change the target industry.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're going to kind of start there, get people kind of used to, man, now tech is being involved in archery.
Right.
And then we can start to kind of progressively release different phases after that. But, as Matt said before, what we think is special about this is it's your own bow, your own arrows. You don't need anything that you don't already have. It's literally everything on your phone.
Yeah.
Right. And so, as archers, when we were looking at this kind of technologies that are out there, they're either completely gamified, right, where it's just not a real bow or anything, or you have to put something special on your bow.
Yeah.
And what we have is everything is exactly as you would shoot. And the way that enables this is your phone in your pocket.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I think that's what interested us in Lancaster Archery was that this is coming in, and now this is something that's only going to advance, and who knows where it's going to go. I know you folks have ideas, but once you see people interacting, that can spawn some new ideas, and who knows where it's going to go. Yeah.
The potential to continue impacting the industry on various levels is unlimited.
Like, we were really excited because, we had back at ATA, we had the kind of traditional 3D target with the anatomy and being able to see the arrows and where that digital vector was placed in the lungs or the heart, right, where those two intersect. We also had the target archery, right, where that arrow is, we know the rings on the target, so we could automatically score distance from center. But that target archery was all brand new to us, right? I mean, we knew that was a huge market. And then actually when we started working with Lancaster, it was, kind of eye-opening and be like, wow, this is a huge, huge market. And we had to learn a lot to kind of start programming towards that.
I mean, you'll remember we came out and did the Lancaster Classic, and just as purely spectators.
Right.
And obviously first timers, we're happy to admit that we've got a learning curve ahead of us, but what an event. And it's so cool to see that community and atmosphere that's rallied around that niche of archery.
And precision. We have judges. There can always be some human error. Bring technology into it, and you can take that out because, there's always, NFL going to instant replay. Yeah. Because the refs don't always get it right. Well, they do the best they can.
Also, a great NFL reference is the first down marker. The yellow line on the first down field, that is what will be the yellow line over your arrow to determine that data from that.
Now we can't watch football without seeing that first down line, right? We have the line of scrimmage, we have the first down line, and it seems like, how did we watch it before that? And I think hopefully what we're planning for QuivAR is that same thing.
I look for it when I'm actually in the stadium.
Where'd it go?
It's just not there.
And to talk about accuracy and precision, in my day job, when I work with our engineering team, we use LiDAR to do design and development work. And when you scan an object, we're getting sub-millimeter accuracy on these objects for design work. Same thing when you fly a LiDAR sensor, you can get these extremely precise measurements, and that's what we're going to leverage, and we have leveraged inside the QuivAR app for when we start to do error detection. So we're excited to be able to get to roll that out eventually.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I'm glad it's folks like you doing this, because this is all miles and miles over my head, but I can see the applications of it and see the results, and it definitely is cool.
Yeah, and to talk to the chips just a little bit more, our base of our technology is a artificial intelligence software engine. So we can actually do object recognition. Like we could determine that's a mule deer, and then we could place the anatomy inside of that just by pure object recognition. But the overwhelming response to get QuivAR to the market quicker, this was an awesome sort of pivot to be able to start to leverage the technology into a chip that was much more user-friendly, back to educating the user base. There's less lessons to have to teach and here, throw that on the target, scan it, and you're good to go.
I'm excited to see when these start getting into the shops. You showed us the video of people can come up, there's the box with the label on it, and they can scan it and kind of play with it right there for free. They just have to download the app.
Correct.
And just to see that, I'm sure that's going to be cool.
And if you look at it from a pro shop perspective, right, this gets people in the stores. They're coming and they're interacting with the targets. Yeah. And it's a free, cool experience. And I mean, I think in the whole marketing realm of industry, it's all going towards this AI, AR type experiences. And we want to bring that to the archery industry and to the pro shops. So when people come in there, whether they buy a target or not, they can, one, have an experience on the box and the packaging.
Right.
Or if, pro shops have the elk displayed, anybody can just download the app, tap on that chip, and start walking around that elk and see the anatomy and the placement.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other things we were interested in is back to community for archery. Say you don't end up buying one of these, but your friend bought one, or Lancaster Archery has one on their range. You can go use it, download our free app, and then interact with it. So you don't have to buy this to interact with QuivAR.
Right.
We wanted to make it such that you're inspired to go, oh, my friend just got that new X-Ray series target. I want to go over there and scan it and check it out. You can do that. We're not asking, for anything special in the QuivAR app. It's free. Download it and use it.
And so June 1st is the launch, and I'm sure we'll have stuff here at Lancaster Archery, but our customer appreciation event, Kyle, is, what's the date? June 22nd. You guys are going to be there for sure. We're going to have displays there that people can come out and see, interact with it, probably use it. We'll probably have it set up on our range, one of the targets, if people can test it out.
Yeah, come out and see it in person for sure.
So yeah, come out and see it in person. If you're coming to customer appreciation, we definitely want to have people come out to that. Was there anything we didn't hit on related to this that you guys wanted to talk about?
Man, I think we can talk about it for another 2 hours, right? I mean, this is what we live and breathe every day. But I mean, just what we're coming out with first is a very, very minimal part, just our entry into the market. Right. The exciting thing is these targets that you buy and use today are going to be the same targets, but exponentially different features going forward. And so we just have a lot of really, really exciting things coming out, and we're excited about this launch as well. And just a side note, so we've been working with some professional hunter guides in Africa, and they see this as, hey, listen, our animals are way different than yours in North America. And we have hunters coming from the US to hunt our animals, and they're all aiming in the wrong spot.
Right.
And so can you do this on an oryx or a sable or some of these? And so there's just a lot of aspects of being able to show this anatomy. But the idea here is this is just the very, very beginning of what the platform is going to be.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things thinking about safari hunts is, they obviously want their animals harvested ethically and as quickly as possible. And they have to go through the painful experience of having these customers come over and not fully understand those shot placements. So they can almost use it as validation for customers before they release an arrow. Like, hey, show me some of your shot placements on QuivAR before we go out there in the field and you release one of these on a wild animal.
I'm the American hunter. I know where to shoot this thing. You don't have to tell me. Oh, really? Take a look here.
And one thing that we did at ATA that we haven't mentioned yet is we can do this on 2D targets too, right? So if you have a cardboard life-size printout of an oryx, for example, we can throw the anatomy inside of that, similar to the box experience. Right. So the box experience, you come into the store, the AI engine just scores that or scans that as a white-tailed deer and places the anatomy. Well, we can do that too with any 2D image, right? So you don't have to have, a 3D target in your backyard. We can also do this on 2D images as well.
I learned the hard way on boars, wild hogs, about behind the shoulder. Get some of the good stuff, but you actually need that quartering shot. And I had that, I would have known.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I didn't have any painful stories to tell like that as well.
If you hunt long enough, you will have them. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and it's a journey. It's always refining and fine tuning those, that muscle memory of where to shoot. And again, you're not having those rings when you're out in the field. You're going to have a blank slate to shoot at. So you need to be aiming on the inside, not on the outside. And right now it's hard to do that because there's nothing to look at on the inside. And we're going to give you that.
This is interesting that you're mentioning this. I just remembered this. I don't know how many years ago it was, Kyle, we did a video on shooting a deer from a tree stand. And I took a 3D deer out and just shot it. But then we took a picture of the vitals and put it on in the video to show it.
That's awesome.
Versus, and there it was all 2D, low tech, nothing like this. But it is hard to imagine those tree stand shots. It's just not, what I've learned through the years is it's not what you think in terms of where you're supposed to shoot it.
As you're saying that, maybe it's helpful to explain a little bit of, what augmented reality is. So what you did, putting that 2D target up, is in so many ways what we're doing, except ours is scaled correctly and it's in the correct space. So augmented reality is the mixture, or they sometimes described as mixed reality, of virtual reality and what you're actually seeing with your own eyes combined. So like this axis deer we're looking at right now just looks like an axis deer to our eyes. But when we hold up our phone and we've got QuivAR enabled, we're going to see on that axis deer, in that axis deer, the actual anatomy.
Yeah.
As you move around the deer, the anatomy is going to stay where it needs to stay. You can take the skeleton off and you can peel back the layers, and then you can see the lungs. You can take the lungs off, peel back another layer, then you can see where the heart is. And as you're doing that and laying on the ground and looking up at it or being on the top of it, it's going to stay exactly where it needs to stay inside that body cavity, scaled correctly, all the things. So we didn't get to that earlier, but that is really the augmented experience is filling the internal cavity of that foam with a digital image, which the way to do that before was print out a 2D target and stick it to it.
And what's different too is, the difference between this and virtual reality is virtual reality, you have to have some kind of headset or goggles that you're using the whole time. Whereas this, you're aiming at the actual target just like you always would. And then you pull up your phone and you can actually see inside the target. So you're still doing everything just like you would always be hunting, right? I'm not aiming at a virtual target. I'm aiming at the target I will be always practicing, always hunting with. And then I pull up my app and I can see the anatomy inside of it. So it doesn't affect your actual training. It just improves after the shot.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about games.
Let's do it.
We talked about games with you?
Yes.
So this concept of virtual shooting, I don't mean virtual shooting as like fake shooting. Virtual, like I could shoot against Levi or against you from a different location. And we'll explain how that can work.
All right. Yeah.
So we could play, let's call it tic-tac-toe. I'm in my yard. Levi's in his yard. He's shooting at a bag target. I'm shooting at a bag target. And we've enabled that bag target to be tic-tac-toe in this case. So I can take my shot. Levi takes his shot. I walk up, scan my target. As I'm scanning my target, his arrow is now showing up on my screen where his arrow landed. And I'm, okay, he's there. And then I go back, take my next shot. So you can go back and forth and do that.
Yeah.
We have a short video on our social media of, I think we're shooting at a Olympic size target, and I think we do the 70 meter shot, and I shoot mine and then Matt shoots at his house and we both scan it, and you can see his arrow on my target and my arrow on his target. Yeah. And so we have all kinds of these games coming out.
You can do that real time, or you could do it like Wordle, like he takes a shot and the next day I go out and take a shot. His arrow will still show up on my target. Yeah. So it's really fun. Again,
that's
gamification, interaction.
For sure. That's the social stuff is just, that's where it seems to me is unlimited where you could go.
Yeah, we have, so then then on our kind of hunter scoring, right? So now that we have the digital anatomy and our digital arrow on top of that, well, where those intersect, we can assign a point value to that. So if you hit the lungs, both lungs is this value, the lungs and the heart is this value. But I can also, in the social part, say, hey, Matt, I hit the heart at 90 yards. Can you do that? And that'll be showing up in the in the app as well. Again, this is all what's coming. We got a lot of stuff that we've been working on in parallel.
Yeah.
But even though it's, coming in the future, the targets that Lancaster's selling through this Delta McKenzie, BIGshot, Real Wild release, those targets in the future, all this kind of stuff we're going to be able to turn on with the click of a button. So
Right.
it's not like hold out till that. You can buy these now, interact with them now, and they'll just be future proof and grow with the technology.
I think that's one of the bigger challenges that we've seen in the archery industry is just understanding the tech part of it.
Yeah.
Right? It's just tech to us. We can enable and disable everything with quote touch of a button. And so it, a lot
Levi
of
gets
people-
mad when I say it's simple. Just it's touching a button.
But what's really neat for us is, whatever ideas the community comes up with after we kind of launch these, next phases,
Yeah.
it's just software development, right? We're not changing physical targets. We don't have to buy a new virtual bow. It's just software dev.
Yeah. That's the part that's amazing to me. The tech stuff that is completely foreign to me, but seeing the results of it, that's what's cool, just to see what you guys came up with. All right. So the QuivAR X-Ray series, or it's going to be Delta McKenzie X-Ray series. It'll have your logo on the box as well.
QuivAR enabled.
QuivAR enabled. June 1st is the launch of that. June 22nd, if you're in the Lancaster area, come on out to our customer appreciation. You can see it all in action. You can see it all beforehand anyway, but you guys are going to be there, I believe, June 22nd. I'm sure we're going to have a target set up. You can come out and test it all out. Should be good. Guys, thanks for coming in today and talking with us. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Hey, it's surreal to be here. Thanks, PJ. This has been awesome.
Yeah, we're so excited about the launch and what's coming up, and just being able to kind of be here at the Lancaster headquarters is kind of a dream come true for us. We're just excited what's coming next.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.